Hi, Curslings. Today we're talking about this mad mama and the status of her soon-to-be condemned house. When we last left off, Veronica was facing down the barrel of her December 3rd court date for code violations regarding her rotted-out roof and Final Destination chimney. It's during this court hearing that Veronica planned to plead her case to the judge in hopes that she would be granted yet another extension, as her attempts to get a second extension from the city had failed back in September, where she says that they told her she had, quote, 4 years to fix it, end quote.
I went in the last day of the extension and I said, can I have another extension? They said, no. You've had 4 years that you've lived there. And I was like, well, yeah, I did have 4 years, but
Leading up to that December 3rd court date, Veronica had excitedly informed her audience that she had found a roofer who was willing to do the work for free. All Veronica had to do to take advantage of this sweet, sweet bargain was pay for the cost of everything else but the labor.
Somebody's supposed to be coming to look at the roof. He didn't get to come the day he was supposed to. He still says he's coming before next week. I expect that he's still going to want me to pay for supplies, but he said he'll do the work for free.
An amount that she seemingly has no concept or clue would end up being.
This week, I don't know how it's going to work out exactly, because he said he would do the work for free, but I probably still need to fund supplies. Like, obviously, I just made some money, so I'll have that, but I don't know if I'm going to need any more. So if anyone still wants to donate, I do still have the GoFundMe in the bio.
It's also worth noting here that this mysterious roofer appears to be Veronica's latest romantic interest, at least based on their interactions on their very public Facebook profiles anyway. Fast forward to December 4th, and Veronica uploads this TikTok where she tells her audience that her roofer friend had already come out to begin work, but dang it, he couldn't get started because it had snowed.
Right now, I have someone who came out and looked at the roof, and he was supposed to come fix it, but then it frickin' snowed. He would have already done it, but it snowed and it's cold. He said it's supposed to be warmer next week, so he's gonna come out and get it taken care of then.
Gosh, if only we could predict the weather with satellites or something. Anyway, it turns out that her court hearing went well, and the judge granted her an extension. Veronica now has until January 7th to prove that work has started.
People are so dramatic. So first of all, I had court yesterday. You can stop acting like it was some kind of crime. It was not having the money to get the roof fixed. The judge didn't ask me to plead anything. He was like, so what's the plan? And I was like, I've got someone coming to fix it. And he was like, okay, I'll give you some more time. And I was like, thanks. And then I left. Like, so there was no pleading and released.
As presumably, if she can't, the judge may deem her house kaput and the property will be condemned. Now, in the description of this TikTok, where Veronica talks about her roofer, she also reminded her audience that she's still trying to crowdfund, writing, I'm still trying to raise a little more so I can cover permits and supplies, but the roofer is doing the labor for free, hoping the snow melts. Conveniently, of course.
He already came out and he looked at it, he knows what it needs. He's going to fix the roof. He's not going to charge me for the labor. And I do have to cover like the cost of like permits and supplies, but he's not going to make me pay up front because he knows my situation and he wants to help. So that's why I'm still trying to raise funds. So he's going to do it and I'm just going to reimburse him his costs.
Glossing over the part where she has spent most of her GoFundMe on her overdue property taxes. So, what money, babes? Cause a couple hundo ain't gonna cut it. But what do I know?
Then I tried to raise money for the roof. I have the GoFundMe in my bio, but I only was able to raise like $1,700, which really isn't enough for anything, and most of that went to help towards getting caught up on property taxes, so I didn't lose the house for that.
Anyway, the mention of permits in this TikTok description caught my attention, mainly because I follow this creator, Jenna Phipps, on TikTok, who is in the process of renovating an abandoned house in British Columbia. In May 2024, Phipps got a stop work order from her city for not having any permits that she had applied for but had yet to be granted.
Pretty much we put in for our permit back in February, and they were like, we need more information. We're like, great, what is that? And then we give them more information. Then they would like, we need more information. And we're like, great, what is that? We give it to them. And it got to the point where they're like, we need structural engineer in there. We need all these things. the only way a structural engineer can evaluate your house is if they can see the structure of your house.
And in our case, you know, it's not like a traditional house where your structure is fine and you're just renovating a little bit here and there. Maybe you want to make it a bit bigger. Our case is a little bit more severe.
It's a little slanted. It's perfect because all the water drains right there. It was not designed like that.
After getting a partial emergency permit to finish replacing the rotted out part of her roof, and after consulting a structural engineer, Phipps was finally granted a permit in July 2024. She was also fined $2,000 for working without a permit.
So I got bad news, good news, bad news. Do you guys remember that stop work order we had at the front? Remember?
Looks really nice.
Well, turns out we got fined $2,000 for that.
Ooh.
I know, I thought we were gonna get away with no fines. I thought it was a warning.
And as for that permit and structural engineer, that cost her $45,000 for the pleasure.
And the only reason why we found that out is because I'm very pleased to announce that after 5 months of trying to get a permit, we got the permit.
Woo! Go Jenna!
And I don't know if you guys know how much permits cost, but I didn't. I thought our permit was gonna cost $50 and a tray of muffins. But no, our permit cost us $45,000.
So, with that in the forefront of my mind, when I initially read this description, I found myself wondering, how much does a permit cost in New York? So I looked it up, and turns out not that much, actually. At least not for the permit part, which isn't that bad. However, there's just one problem. Veronica says that her roofer already attempted to start work ahead of a permit being issued.
Right now, I have someone who came out and looked at the roof, and he was supposed to come fix it, but then it frickin' snowed.
Which could result in a stop work order like it did for Jenna Phipps. Now, it is possible that Veronica already applied for the necessary permits ahead of her December 3rd court date. Doubtful, but possible. But even if she had applied, it would have been unlikely that the permit had been issued, as the application takes 24 hours to process according to the City of Fulton's website. Once processed, it then takes up to 7 days to be issued, so that's suspicious. Now, if the City of Fulton were to find out that Veronica's roofer had started work without a permit, a stop work order would be issued, and the application for a new permit would cost double their original fee. That said, I'm uncertain if there would be any additional fines for not having a permit in the first place, let alone whether they would be to the degree that Jenna Phipps experienced. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were fines. So definitely, this is something that you want to make sure your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted for. As for Veronica's roof, we really don't know the scope of the damage. She has said that a section of the roof is rotted out. Depending on the degree of that water penetration, the damage could have affected the roof beams beneath the roof deck.
So right here is the chimney going up, and there you can kind of see, so it's not just shingles. Here, I'll back up. Yeah, it's rot. This isn't just, oh, come fix a leak in the roof or come fix some shingles. This is, the beams are all rotted out and it's all messed up, and a professional needs to come fix it. That's why it's so much.
If those need to be replaced, which is possible, Veronica and her roofer will have to consult a licensed structural engineer or architect. As per state law, they are required for any, quote, alteration to an existing residential building costing more than $20,000, and, more importantly, in my opinion, for changes which affect the structural safety and or public safety of the building or structure. Given that Veronica's roof and chimney have been deemed unsafe by the City of Fulton, and they have initiated the process to condemn the structure, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that there's a very good chance of this happening. Something I'm sure that Veronica's roofer is well aware of, as contractors regularly work with engineers and architects, and some contracting companies even have them on their payroll. Not to mention that contractors need to be registered with the City of Fulton anyway, so everything should be fine, right? Right? I'm sure you can guess what the answer to that question is. Regardless, after reading all of this, I found myself wondering if this random guy who was offered to fix Veronica's roof for quotation fingers free was even a legitimate contractor. Something I should point out that every single person planning to hire a contractor should be asking themselves anyways. And the answer to that question, by the way, is yes, with an asterisk. See, Veronica's roofer, who we'll call RG for roofer guy or just Reggie for short, is technically a finger quotes legitimate roofer with a finger quotes legitimate business. However, in the state of New York, you are not required to be licensed to be a contractor or a handy person, meaning I could purchase liability insurance and fill out this general contractor registration form with the city of Fulton, pay $100, and bingo bango, I am now a general contractor. Awesome. So yeah, Reggie's a contractor, sure, but is he qualified? I guess we'll find out. As for Reggie's business, that is registered as a sole proprietorship, which in the state of New York does not require a general business license. In other words, Reggie is self-employed as a general contractor and doesn't have to prove that he knows how to general contractor. In fact, the only requirement is that he is registered at the municipal level, which isn't public record, at least online. I'm sure if I called Fulton's code enforcement office, though, that they would be able to tell me, because that is a normal query that they tend to get, and because any responsible homeowner would vet prospective contractors before entering into any kind of binding contract with them. But who am I kidding? This is Veronica we're talking about.
So,
Now, Reggie's business does have an online presence, sort of. He used to have a website, but for whatever reason, it's no longer available. There was a Facebook page, but the links to it no longer work either, so that's reassuring. And as for the business number, I didn't feel like calling it, so who knows. Not to mention that his personal Facebook profile does not indicate that he is a general contractor who owns his business, just that he works from home. Worse, because it gets worse, Reggie is not considered to be of good repute, let alone capable of rendering quality services in their area. On Google, his business has a rating of 2.9 and has 19 reviews, most of which are negative. On Yelp, he's rated 2.3 stars and has 3 reviews, only one of which was actually positive. And on his Better Business Bureau profile page, Reggie's business is not recommended with an F rating, and he has 4 unresolved complaints. Cool. Realizing that I had just stumbled into a rabbit hole of sorts, obviously I began to read Reggie's reviews to see how bad it could actually be, and it's bad. Of course it's bad. His quote was free, and we'll find out. As for the reviews, several were cross-posted between the Better Business Bureau, Yelp, and or Google, meaning that Reggie managed to piss his client off enough for them to leave a review in every place possible that they could. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this is why Reggie's business no longer has a public Facebook page. There was also a lot of overlap in the things that his former clients were complaining about, including a handful of instances where the reviewer indicated that they would be taking Reggie to court to recuperate their money. So me, being the nosy person that I am, skipped right over to the New York State Civil Court records and looked up Reggie's business, and wouldn't you know it, 5 of his former clients, at least 2 of which that I can connect to public negative reviews, have taken Reggie to small claims court between 2020 and 2024. Yikes! In other words, these aren't just Karens complaining. There is a legitimate pattern of behavior in the way Reggie conducts himself and his business, and none of it is reassuring. And it's those 2 reviews that I'm going to present to you first, beginning with a person who I will call Mr. A. Mr. A posted this review in June 2023 to both Google and Yelp. In his review, Mr. A explains that he is writing on behalf of his semi-retired family member, who we'll call Granny A. According to Mr. A, Reggie entered into a contract with Granny A 8 months ago and has since been completely unprofessional in managing the work on the project. Mr. A then provided a laundry list of complaints where he accused Reggie of leaving the job site a mess, ignoring phone calls and text messages, making endless excuses for why he couldn't work that day, including one of his staff having legal trouble that Reggie had to assist him with for some reason, that he never produced any materials he purchased with the client money, that staff was never on site for a full day, that their work time averaged 4 hours when they were actually on site, and that Reggie and his crew never worked a full day during the month of May when the weather is best suited for redoing your roof. However, it's this part that I want to draw attention to, where Mr. A alleges that Reggie was, quote, unable to produce materials purchased with client money, end quote. This, as you'll see, will become an ongoing theme with Reggie, as multiple reviews have mentioned Reggie buying materials that he never delivered or just absconding with their money outright. It also seems to be illegal, as according to the New York State Senate, Section 771-B, Responsibilities of Roofing Contractors, General Business, Chapter 20, Article 36-A, Section 7, a roofing contractor shall not fail to pay for materials or services rendered in connection with a roofing contract where the contractor has received sufficient funds as payment for the particular contract for which the services or material were rendered or purchased. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, what this sounds like this is saying is you cannot say that you bought shit and then not produce said shit. In the Better Business Bureau complaint, which shares features with the Yelp and Google reviews regarding work on a garage roof, house roof, and covered porch roof, the author, who again we will refer to as Granny A, elaborates more on exactly what had transpired, writing, I entered into a contract on October 22nd. The contractor did not begin work until the week of Thanksgiving in November. He stated he would have the porch finished before the first of the year. I never heard from him for 4 months. I started contacting him in February and March about getting started again. He finally started work again in April. After he was done doing the garage and half of the house, he asked me for the second payment. I advised him I would call my investor, I'm guessing Mr. A, and should have money in 2 to 3 days. He didn't show up to work for 6 days. I gave him money on the 4th day, $6,300. He finally admitted to me that he had no money to purchase product to start the roof to the porch, which Granny A says she only found out because she was harassing him. I was texting him every day, she says, asking him why he wasn't working here. So 6 days were wasted. I gave him $10,000 in October. He had money, but still didn't show up. Wow. And by the way, under Section 5 of the New York State Senate's Responsibilities of Roofing Contractors, blah, 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 it says a roofing contractor shall not require an owner to provide a deposit for the work and materials. A roofing contractor shall not mandate that a particular form of payment be made in order to commence performance of the home improvement. Again, it's just, yeah. Stellar guy you got there, Ronnie. Stellar guy. Back on Google and Yelp, Mr. A continues his review, adding to his list of observed behaviors by writing, this is not an exhaustive list, but it should be enough for anyone reading it to reconsider entering into any sort of agreement with Reggie and his business. He is no longer in good standing with the Better Business Bureau, and there are a growing number of reviews that substantiate the claim I'm making here. The family member in question is in the process of bringing legal action against Reggie and his business. 8 months does not seem like an unreasonable timeline to expect someone to finish a garage roof, home roof, and a deck. New homes are built in less time. Mr. A then concludes his review by writing, with Reggie, you are running a very serious risk of entering into an agreement with an unethical businessman. Reggie will not be forthcoming about his timeline. He will not produce materials that have been purchased with your money. He will keep unprofessional business hours, and he does not run a tight ship among his quote-unquote crew. My family member is semi-retired and wants nothing more than to be able to sit on their front deck and enjoy the summer. I hope this review helps you make an informed decision. Pretty damning stuff, eh? As for Granny A, she would take Reggie to court in June of 2023, and the two would reach a settlement a month later in July. Now, if the plight of Granny A isn't harrowing enough, this next review should cement any feelings you might be having. Posted to Google and the Better Business Bureau website, this author, who I will call Lady M, left this review in September 2023, writing, "Please read the reviews and take it in consideration. Reggie came to give me an estimate to build a deck in my backyard by my pool at the end of June. After weeks, he sent me the estimate and we discussed cost of materials and agreed on what material I wanted the deck to be. I agreed to pay $6,750 for the deck." Adding in parentheses, he wasn't the only quote I got, nor the cheapest. Reggie asked for a 50% deposit to buy the materials and get the permit. On July 11th, I gave him a check for $3,375, which he cashed that same day. He never came to do the job. Today is September 10th, and nothing. Much like Mr. A and Granny A's experience with Reggie, Lady M also commented on Reggie's poor communication in her Better Business Bureau complaint, explaining in her Google review, "You won't ever hear from him. If he replies to your texts 4 to 5 days later, you were lucky." Finally, after 2 months of waiting and hearing nothing, Lady M says she had enough with Reggie and his bullshit, writing, "I asked Reggie for my deposit back and he said that he never had anyone cancel a job on him. He said he would give my deposit back once he either resells the material he purchased for the job," adding in parentheses again, "nothing showed up at my property, not even a box of screws, or if someone else hires him for a similar job." That's not how that works. You cannot take a deposit from someone, do nothing, and then tell the person when they ask you for their money back that you cannot refund them until the materials you bought and never delivered, by the way, are sold or used. No, that's extremely unethical. But wait, there's more. Obviously, because of course there is. Lady M, obviously unhappy with this answer, says that she wouldn't accept it, as those things aren't in his control and none of it might ever happen. Yeah. In response, Lady M says that Reggie agreed to give her a refund, but that it would take a week or two, adding, "I haven't heard from him." What a shocker. Basically, he ghosted her. He accepted a $3,375 deposit, did fuck all, and then ghosted her. Legitimately, this guy is a piece of shit in my very humble opinion. And so, left without further recourse, Lady M says that she got the papers needed to sue him in small claims court, which she would go on to do in December 2023. Unfortunately for Lady M, the course would be adjourned on January 29th, 2024, and it's currently unclear what will happen with this case, and if Lady M plans to continue pursuing Reggie in court or by other means. Whatever the case, though, Lady M would conclude her Google review with the following warning: save yourself the headache and your hard-earned money and hire someone else who follows through and has a good work ethic. Yikes. These are not great, you guys. Now, this next review does not have a small claims court case attached to it. However, I think it will underscore and support the conclusions made by Mr. A, Granny A, and Lady M. And because there's pictures, and those always help. Essentially, back in roughly 2022, a woman named simply Lindsay posted the following Google review, where she wrote, "We hired Reggie, the owner, as a general contractor for the renovation of a home. Unfortunately, Reggie has completely ended communication with us." Oh, that's a great start. Reggie left the property in a very disorderly state, costing us significant time and money just cleaning up, as can be seen from the photos. He seems to have gotten in over his head with our project, and instead of being honest with us or making things right, he has taken our money, completed work with critical errors, and ran before completing the project. Are you detecting a pattern yet, curselings? Because again, yikes! Most of the work, Lindsay continues, was not done properly. For example, all insulation was not overlapped and stapled. The work is incomplete. For example, the window trim is not installed, framing is unfinished, plumbing unfinished, electric unfinished, there's holes in the floors, etc. Or the work is already failing. For example, the roof on the porch flew off and needs replacing. We find new issues daily. Lindsay ends her review by saying, "I hope my review can save people the headaches we are experiencing." Oof. And look at those pictures. This is not acceptable. This is just shameful, in my opinion. And Lindsay and Mr. A aren't the only people to leave reviews commenting on the messes Reggie and his crew tend to leave on their property. This July 2021 review, for example, which was posted to Yelp by an individual I'll call Mr. R, also speaks to the chaos left by Reggie and his crew. And like Lindsay, he also provided a photo, writing, "I anticipated Mr. Reggie to be an excellent choice for my new roof. I was provided an estimate by Mr. Reggie last September for $9,850. Mr. R will then go on to explain that Reggie came out and provided a second quote of $800 to install a new skylight, to do something for the stair railings at the back of his house, fix the flashing around his chimney, and to polyseal a seam for a sliding glass door to prevent further water penetration. Reggie," Mr. R continues, "has been paid in full, with a deposit of $5,325 on January 25th, and the remaining balance paid on April 26th of $5,325. However, he has not answered my requests to finish the job, like the flashing and the polyseal, and to either repair or replace the new skylight, which has scratches all over it." Much like Mr. A, Mr. R also complained of cigarette butts being left all over his lawn. Worse, Reggie and his crew caused damage to Mr. R's property, who explained, "I've also just discovered water in my basement. They didn't reattach the long end gutter that was diverting water off of my roof away from my home." Awesome! Could he be any more incompetent at this point? Yes. By the way, the answer is yes. Because here's the kicker, curselings. This isn't the only review that I've read where Reggie and his crew have caused damage to their client's property through either negligent business practices or just general poor craftsmanship. By my count, including Mr. R and Lindsay, there are 7 reviews that mention damage or work that had to be redone due to improper installation, including the Better Business Bureau complaint that I believe to have been written by Granny A, who described a similar situation to Mr. R regarding her eaves troughs and water drainage, where she wrote, "Today, I had to show one of Reggie's crew members all the water that has flowed into my basement closet because he took down my eaves troughs. So when it rains, water goes into my closet and is ruining my memorabilia I have stored in there." Frustrated with the mess and damage, Granny A says that she requested that Reggie fix the problem his negligence had created, bringing it up to Reggie's crew several times until finally one of them would agree to get in touch with the quote-unquote boss. And what a shocking turn of events, Reggie never got back to her about it. Because why would he? That would require accountability. In another Better Business Bureau complaint from August 2023, this homeowner described how an inspection for their insurance policy renewal revealed major problems in their roof after Reggie had completed the job. It's also worth noting that this complaint could have been authored by Mr. R, as the dates and writing style are similar. Whatever the case, though, the author writes, "I hired Mr. Reggie, owner of business name in good faith, to replace the roof on my house, and he provided an estimate for me on September 29th, 2020. The estimate included photos of the deficiencies in the roof that needed to be addressed, including the shingles. I have since had an inspector from my homeowner's policy come and evaluate the roof, and he took photos of buckling that needs repair in order for me to renew my policy. I've informed Reggie via email and voicemail message. This is Reggie's response via email," where they then copy and pasted Reggie's email response where Reggie wrote, "I see the photos. You can see by the photos that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the shingles. My dude, that's not what they're upset about. The buckling, as you call it, is a result of the decking underneath the shingles." Yeah, and what would cause the roof decking to buckle, I wonder? Could it be water penetration? Nah. According to Reggie, it's actually the result of poor construction. What? The nails probably came out of the decking or something. And I just gotta ask, Reggie, how? How does that happen? But of course, Reggie doesn't have an answer for that. Instead, he continues by writing, "You didn't pay me to redeck your house. You paid me to put shingles on it. Given that when we were done, the buckling wasn't there, your decking was still in good condition." Oh, he's an idiot. Yeah. That makes a lot more sense. Because if the roof deck, which again is the wood under the shingles, was in good condition before he reshingled the roof, that means, Reggie, that you reshingled the roof wrong. Because the only way water can penetrate a newly shingled roof is if the shingles were installed improperly. Apparently, I am more qualified to be a general contractor than Reggie here. Anyway, the author ends their complaint by drawing the same conclusion we just drew, because they have an IQ in the triple digits, writing, Reggie warranties his work. If moisture, aka water, got into the decking beneath the shingles as he's indicated, then that is the issue of his company's poor craftsmanship, aka it's his fault and he's supposed to fix it. Did he? No. Then there's these Google reviews from 2023 where a pair of individuals, who I will call Mr. and Mrs. S, detailed a similar story. There's a lot I can tell you. Mr. S begins. I have multiple texts, dates and times on paper of trying to communicate and even communicating when Reggie was reachable. Bottom line, it took 2.5 months for a finished roof. We had water leaks in our garage and home. Reggie did fix that, but it shouldn't have happened. Now I see a wave pattern on the front of my roof. I had another roofer come down and look. The boards are a little soft and can raise up with time. Now, according to Mr. S's second opinion, the shingles were installed incorrectly. At the peaks of the house, they apparently tucked the wrong part of the shingles in first. The boots around my vent pipes are up and not sealed on the roof tightly enough. Around the air circulation vents, they used 2-inch nails and not 3-inch nails, so they are not penetrating into any wood, so they can now get loose and allow moisture underneath. They crossed the caps in the wrong direction on my garage side and are sticking up. Had to reseal those down. Now I'm paying $500 more to have a professional roofer fix this. Reggie was not the least expensive. He came in just under the highest quote. There were less expensive quotes that I got. Again, the pattern here is glaring. And Mr. S will conclude his Google review by stating that he will be seeking out legal advice on how to recuperate his money, and that Reggie and his crew left a giant mess in his gutters that he then had to pay to get cleaned up. In the Google review written by his wife, Mrs. S, she provides even more detail of what their experience was like with Reggie, writing, "It took over 2 months to complete our roof, many texts to back up our experience, days without communication, weeks after getting payment for supplies before they were bought. Reggie was never on the job until the last day. Our roof was torn off for weeks before the shingles were finally replaced. Took 3 weeks once the roof was started. Major damage in the house due to the roof being torn off. The tear off took weeks, with no replacement through many rainstorms. Reggie did not keep his word on timeline. The damage to our home caused major stress, and Reggie seemed uncaring. Many excuses, no follow through. Gee, I wonder who that sounds like. There was a dumpster left in the driveway for weeks. Also, who does that sound like? And 3 weeks later, the roof had waves and needs repair. On the last day, we gave our check and they took it directly to the bank. The bank told them that they need to verify the check before they could cash it." That's a bad sign. Now, it could be that it's because Reggie's business doesn't have a business account, or there's some information missing, or it's a different bank than he usually goes to, or something bureaucratic and paper pushery like that. It's very possible. However, this occurred in 2023. Reggie's business has been in operation since 2020, and he has cashed many checks in the time between. So what it sounds like to me is that the bank likely doesn't trust him and or is concerned about fraud. Cool. Then Mrs. S says this. Reggie's son called and said if they couldn't cash the check, they couldn't get home. Basically putting pressure and all the responsibility of their ability to get home onto their clients. Again, who does this sound like? Now, keep in mind, in Granny A's complaint, she said that she gave Reggie $10,000 in October 2022, and despite having that money, didn't really start work until April 2023, where within a month, he was asking for the rest of his money because he had run out. Let that sink in. He said that he ran out of $10,000 $6,000 and needed another $6,300 to finish the job he had barely started. That's great. That's a great sign. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that Reggie taking people's money and then not completing jobs is also a running theme in his reviews. Like in this 2022 Google review from an account called Social Banter, who accused Reggie of essentially operating a Ponzi scheme with deposits, writing, "Shady contractor, says he can do what he can't and rolls projects into one, in that he takes on multiple projects by using one project to fund another project without completing any." Yeah, that is a Ponzi scheme. A very poorly executed Ponzi scheme, but a Ponzi scheme nonetheless. Reggie, they continue, is a disingenuous person and has ended up costing me more than necessary. Stay away from him. Now, Reggie would actually respond to this review, by the way, writing simply, "There's no truth to this. I don't know about that, my guy." In another Google review from 2021, a person who I'll just call SR also complained of Reggie ghosting him after not finishing a job, writing, "Reggie did work for me just over a year ago. Being satisfied with the initial work, I agreed to additional services and paid him over $3,000 for that additional work. Due to weather, he stated that he could not get to my house as agreed, which I felt was reasonable. In April 2021, Reggie said that he was waiting for a break in the weather. I let him know that I was selling my property and needed it done in spring or summer of 2021. It is now October, and he has not completed the work he agreed to. Additionally, I reached out as a final attempt to either get my deposit back or the agreed upon work done, and he has completely ignored my request." SR ends his review by writing, "On top of having to deal with unprofessionalism, I fear I am going to have to pursue legal recourse. Don't waste your time." Now, unfortunately, I was unable to match any of the 5 small claims cases to SR, so it's unclear if he was ever able to recover his money or if they were able to settle privately or what. I don't know. Then there's also this Google review from 2021 by a person that I'll call Mr. L, who, like the other reviews we've already covered, would make similar complaints, including that Reggie is out of his depth, that he is unreliable when it comes to showing up for work, that he abandoned the project before completing it, and that they had to pay someone else to redo the work that Reggie's crew did incorrectly. Yeah. Reggie would also reply to this review, accusing Mr. L of actually being a cold, heartless investment group trying to rob hard-working Americans like himself, and that, according to Reggie, Mr. L's investment group liked to micromanage, complaining project details were changed on a daily basis, including materials. Material lists were then delayed by weeks as a result of them trying to cut corners. Fortunately, our hero Reggie saw through the bamboozle, declaring proudly, likely while the American flag waved majestically behind him and a bald eagle screamed in time with the national anthem, "I am horrified that investment groups like this exist, and I feel awful for their victims." He really is a man after Veronica's heart in the way he deflects blame, is he not? I refused to be one of them. Yes, I walked away from them. Clearly a true patriot. I walked away from them before they could rob me any further. Sir, they're paying you. Also, I just spent a whole lot of time proving that you are the one who robs people. But go off. Play the victim. You're gonna be in great company with Veronica. Ugh. Now, while it might seem like a match made in heaven for Veronica, just 2 scammers caught in a destructive orbit, I find Reggie's offer to help Veronica for free, the labor anyway, far more sinister. So much so that had this been even 4 months ago, I might have reached out to Veronica privately to warn her. But I don't feel so charitable now, so we're just gonna let nature run its course here, so to speak. Perhaps this guy is her karma, or maybe she already knows that this is a train wreck in the making and she's hoping that it will go exactly how it probably will, which is horribly. Because if one thing is clear from all of these reviews that I just read you, it's that Reggie will definitely take her money, he will rip off her roof, leave what's left of it exposed to the elements for who knows how long, make a massive mess, likely cause way more damage to the house than he'll actually fix, and then he'll ghost her. And any work that he does start will likely be done incorrectly and need to be redone within weeks to months after the fact anyway, so womp womp. What's even more alarming about this unholy union between Ronnie and Reggie is that she is toying with the idea of signing her GoFundMe over to him.
It's going to get done. I've already got someone lined up who's going to get it done. He just needs to get the money for the supplies. I'm actually going to change the fundraiser. So somebody suggested having it go directly to him, and I actually think that's a great idea because he's going to be doing the work.
Meaning that he would be able to access the donations she's received directly from her fans, supporters, and subscribers, whatever. Because that's a super fucking great idea, right? Regardless, as of the time of this recording, Reggie has yet to start any work on her roof. The only thing we know for sure is that her next court date for her house and whether it will be condemned is on January 7th. So I guess we just have to wait and see what happens, as per usual. As it stands, though, Veronica has yet to provide a quote from Reggie to her GoFundMe backers and her audience, which in my opinion would likely reinvigorate her audience and possibly inspire a few more suckers to start donating again.
You think I'm not doing anything, but it's already getting taken care of. What do you want from me? I don't know how to fix these things by myself. I'm not capable. Why should I do things that I can't do?
She also has not shown proof of a contract between her and Reggie, or provided a timeline for the work he's going to be doing in the middle of fucking winter, nor do we know if she's actually secured a permit or even has any idea of what this is going to cost her to do this.
He's really already pretty close to having everything he needs. He's going to write me up something saying, you know, what the costs are, but he's doing the labor for free.
And the fact that she is barely posting to any of her social media, which is how she makes her money and is her so-called job, her words, and on top of that still has not bothered to find an actual job, I don't have high hopes. In fact, I'm at a point with this Mad Mama where I wouldn't be surprised if she was in on the grift with her roofer, and that this is just a new way for her to get money and then cry victim when it invariably blows up in her face.
And actually this guy is really talented. He said he could build a house from the ground up. He's done that before. I have a lot of things that need to be done, so who knows, maybe I'll hire this guy and maybe we'll make some videos together and he'll be my go-to home renovation guy. We'll see.
What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Anyway, that's it for me. I want to thank everyone for liking, commenting, and subscribing with a big, big thank you to my mods and members, as always. You guys are rad, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!